Imagine this. You're a black man, minding your business, walking to your own home when suddenly, out of nowhere, you're surrounded by police officers, accused of trespassing on your own property. But here's the shocking twist. You're not just any man, you're an FBI agent. This is a story about a mistake so serious, it will make your blood boil. Stay tuned, because you won't believe what happens next. And hey, if you're part of the Black Visionaries family, hit that like button right now and subscribe for more jaw-dropping stories like this one. It was a quiet evening in downtown Atlanta. The streets were bathed in the soft glow of streetlights, with the distant hum of traffic creating a constant backdrop. In the midst of the hustle and bustle, Marcus Jameson, an experienced FBI agent, was just finishing a long and tiring day at the office. He had spent hours reviewing case files, making phone calls, and trying to wrap up what seemed like an endless list of tasks. His mind was weary, but all he wanted now was to get home to his family. The idea of a quiet evening with his wife and kids was all that kept him going. As he drove through the city, his mind was still on the work he had left behind. His home was just a few blocks away, nestled in a quiet neighborhood where he'd lived for years. The thought of getting to his house, sinking into his favorite chair, and spending some much-needed time with his loved ones made him smile. But as he rounded the corner onto a street, the familiar comfort of home was interrupted by something that immediately put him on edge. The unmistakable sound of sirens grew louder behind him. He glanced into the rearview mirror and saw flashing red and blue lights were flashing red and blue lights reflecting off the buildings around him. For a split second, he thought it was just another patrol, another part of city life he was used to. But as the sirens drew closer, his gut told him something was wrong. His heartbeat quickened, and an uneasy feeling spread through him. With a sigh, Marcus slowed down and pulled over to the side of the road, trying to remain calm. He checked the mirror again. 2 patrol cars had stopped directly behind him. 2 officers were already stepping out of their vehicles. Marcus instinctively reached for his wallet, his fingers brushing against his FBI badge. He wasn't sure why he felt the need to do so, but something about the officer's demeanor made him think he might need it. Before he could even open the door, one of the officers, a man in his 50s with graying hair, approached the driver's side. His expression was stern and unreadable, and his hand hovered near his holster. Marcus knew that look. He'd seen it before in countless tense situations, but this time it wasn't in a case file. This time it was happening to him. The officer's voice was loud and firm, carrying a sense of authority. "Step out of the vehicle. Hands where we can see them." Marcus's confusion deepened. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice steady but carrying a hint of nervousness. "Why are you pulling me over?" The officer ignored his question and repeated the command. "Step out of the car now. Hands where we can see them." Marcus's mind raced. He wasn't sure what had triggered this stop. He had been driving normally, and this neighborhood was his own. He opened the door, slowly, to comply. As soon as he stepped out of the car, he saw more officers emerging from the second patrol car. A sense of unease turned to concern. Why was he being surrounded? This wasn't just a routine traffic stop. A younger officer, likely in his 30s, came up beside the first officer. He looked at Marcus with suspicion. "You're under suspicion of trespassing," he said, his tone more aggressive than necessary. "Step away from the car and keep your hands where we can see them." Marcus blinked, his mind struggling to comprehend the situation. Trespassing? This was his neighborhood, his home. He'd lived here for years, and there was no reason anyone should be suspicious of him. But as the officers continued to surround him, he realized that no explanation he gave would change their minds. "I'm telling you, I live here," Marcus said, trying to keep his composure. "This is my property. This is my property. I don't know what this is about, but I'm not trespassing." The older officer looked at him skeptically. "Show us some ID," he demanded. "We need to confirm who you are." Marcus felt a wave of frustration rising inside him. This was ridiculous. "I'm FBI. I'm just trying to get home." But the officers didn't seem convinced. The younger officer smirked. "FBI? Sure you are. I don't believe you." The exchange left Marcus stunned. He had expected more from law enforcement, especially after years of working alongside them, but now they were treating him like a criminal. He felt his anger building, but he tried to stay calm. This was not the time to escalate things. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out his FBI badge. He held it up, hoping it would finally make them realize their mistake. "This is my badge. I'm a federal agent. I work for the FBI. I live here." The older officer glanced at the badge, but it wasn't enough to convince him. "I don't care who you say you are. We're taking you in for questioning." Marcus couldn't believe what he was hearing. This couldn't be real. He was being treated like a criminal, despite being a law enforcement officer himself. He had worked in the FBI for years, had put in long hours, solved complex cases, and now, here he was, handcuffed and surrounded by officers who didn't seem to care. "Are you serious?" Marcus shouted, his frustration spilling over. "I'm an FBI agent. I'm just trying to go home." But the officers weren't backing down. They continued to treat him like a suspect. As the older officer began to cuff him, a cold knot formed in Marcus's stomach. It was happening. He was being arrested for doing nothing wrong. But just as the officers began to walk him toward their patrol car, a voice broke through the tension. "Stop." Marcus froze. He turned around and his eyes widened when he saw the newcomer. It was another officer, but this time it was someone he recognized, one of his colleagues from the FBI. The officer rushed forward, his badge clearly visible. "What the hell is going on here?" the FBI agent demanded, his voice filled with urgency. "This man is FBI. He's Agent Marcus Jameson." The two officers stopped in their tracks, clearly confused. The older officer muttered, "What?" "FBI? He is FBI?" the agent repeated. "You're making a huge mistake. You're making a huge mistake." Marcus stood there, feeling a mix of anger and disbelief. He wanted to scream, to tell these officers how wrong they were, how humiliating this was, but he held it in. He knew he had to stay calm for the sake of his career, his reputation. The officers seemed to realize their error, but it was too late. The damage had been done. "Sorry," the older officer muttered, but it didn't feel like a true apology. The words seemed hollow. Marcus didn't say anything. He was furious, but he also knew there was no point in arguing further. He was free now, but the experience had left a bitter taste in his mouth. The young officer reluctantly removed the handcuffs, and Marcus was left standing there, his heart still racing, trying to make sense of the situation. The next day, Marcus filed a formal complaint against the officers involved. It wasn't just for him, it was for everyone who had ever been wrongfully targeted because of the color of their skin. It was for every Black man who had been treated unfairly, who had been judged based on nothing but their appearance. The incident made headlines in the local news, and soon it became a topic of national conversation. People everywhere were talking about how Marcus had been treated simply because he was Black. They were talking about racial profiling, about how this kind of thing happened far too often, and how it needed to stop. As Marcus reflected on what happened, he realized that this wasn't just about him. It wasn't just about one night, one mistaken identity. It was about a broken system that needed fixing. Racial profiling was still alive and well in law enforcement, and it wasn't something he could ignore. He used his platform to speak out about what had happened and to demand accountability. He spoke about the need for better training, for more awareness within law enforcement about how to handle situations like the one he'd just been through. "This isn't just about me," Marcus said during an interview. "This is about all the Black men out there who get treated like this every day. I'm not the only one. If this can happen to me, a federal agent, it can happen to anyone." Marcus's story became a rallying cry for change, a call for justice that resonated with people across the nation. But for Marcus, it wasn't about recognition. It was about making sure that this never happened again to him or anyone else. The incident stayed with him, but so did the resolve to continue the fight for justice. Because no one, no matter their background, their job, or their skin color, should ever have to go through what he had experienced. And until that changed, he knew the work to create a fairer, more just world would continue. And hey, Black Visionaries family, if you're loving the story and want more jaw-dropping tales like this, smash that like button right now and subscribe. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. We've got more incredible stories that'll keep you on the edge of your seat. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more.